The school auditorium was noisy. Students laughed, joked, and waited for their turn to perform. It was the school's big talent day, and everyone wanted to shine. Lights were bright. The judges sat at a long table in front, looking serious and bored. Most of them had already seen too many singers and dancers. Nothing felt new. Then the doors at the back of the hall slowly opened. A small black boy walked in, holding something in his hands, a violin. It looked old. The wood was scratched, and the strings looked thin. His shoes were too big, and his shirt was a little torn. He walked quietly to the stage. At first, no one noticed him. Then someone pointed and laughed. "Look at that violin," a boy in the crowd shouted. "Is he serious?" Another one said, "He's gonna play that thing." A few kids started giggling. Some pulled out their phones to record. But the boy said nothing. His eyes looked straight at the stage. His name was Elijah. He was only 11 years old, but his face looked older, like he had seen too much for his age. He didn't talk much at school. He didn't have many friends. Most people just ignored him. But today, they were looking, and they were laughing. One of the judges whispered, "Should we just skip him?" Another replied, "Let's see. Maybe it'll be funny." Elijah climbed the steps to the stage. His hands were shaking. His heart was beating fast. But he kept walking. He stood at the center of the stage. The crowd kept whispering. Some students made violin sounds with their mouths, pretending to play badly. Laughter echoed through the hall. But Elijah didn't look at them. He closed his eyes, and for a moment, everything went quiet in his mind. Flashback, 1 week ago. Elijah sat on the stairs outside his small house. He held the same violin in his hands. His mother sat next to him, holding a warm cup of tea. "You nervous?" she asked. "A little," he said. She smiled and touched his shoulder. "Don't worry about them. Just play with your heart. People always laugh first, but they listen later." Elijah looked down. What if they hate it? Then let them hate. You're not playing for them. You're playing for me. For you. He nodded. He didn't want to cry, but his eyes filled with tears anyway. Back in the present, Elijah opened his eyes on stage. The crowd was still. Some kid smirked. One boy made a loud fake violin sound, and the audience laughed again. Elijah took a deep breath. He placed the violin on his shoulder. He held the bow gently in his hand. His fingers found the strings, like they had so many nights before in the quiet of his room. He was about to play. Then, another flashback rushed into his mind. Flashback, 2 years ago. He found the violin in a trash bin. It was broken, dirty, and smelled like old wood, but he picked it up and took it home. He cleaned it with a cloth. He fixed the strings using fishing wire. He didn't know how to play, but he watched videos online. He listened to songs and copied the sounds. Sometimes the music was bad, but he didn't stop. He played at night when the world was asleep. He played when his mom cried after losing her job. He played when there was no dinner on the table. The violin became his voice, because he didn't like to speak. The first note left the violin like a soft whisper. The audience was still. Even the ones who had laughed before now sat quiet, unsure of what they were hearing. Elijah's fingers moved slowly but carefully. His body swayed with the rhythm, like the music was part of him. The sound wasn't loud or perfect, but it was deep. It came from somewhere real. One teacher leaned closer. Another wiped her glasses, confused. This small boy, this shy kid with an old violin, was playing from his soul. As the melody filled the room, Elijah's mind went far away, to memories that hurt and healed at the same time. Flashback, the street corner. A year ago, Elijah stood on a busy street, playing his violin. His mother had lost her job again. They had no money for food, no money for rent. So he played. He played with a small cup in front of him. Most people walked past him without looking. Some dropped coins. Some laughed. One man threw a soda can near him and said, "Get off the street, kid." But Elijah didn't stop. The music gave him strength. His fingers were red from the cold. His arms hurt from holding the violin too long. But he kept playing. And one day, an old man stopped to listen. Flashback. The old man with a cane. The man wore a long brown coat and had a wooden cane. He watched Elijah for a long time, then spoke. "You play from the heart, not from the hand," he said. Elijah looked down. "I just try." "Who taught you?" "No one. I watch videos. I learn by ear." The man nodded slowly. "I used to teach music. Long time ago. Your violin's not in good shape." Elijah nodded. "I found it in the trash." The old man smiled. "Would you let me help?" That evening, the man took Elijah home and helped repair the violin. He changed the strings, fixed the bridge, and even gave him a new bow. They didn't talk much, but the silence between them felt safe. Back in the present, on stage, the bow moved faster now. Elijah played with more power, more feeling. The soft notes turned into strong rising waves. Every sound told a story, of pain, of hope, of love. The laughter from earlier was long gone. In the back row, the same boy who had mocked Elijah lowered his phone. He wasn't recording anymore. He was watching. In the front row, one of the judges whispered, "Where did this boy learn to do this?" Another whispered back, "He's never taken a single music class here." Not one. But the real answer was deeper. Flashback. The night the violin broke. It was raining hard. Elijah and his mom had just been told to leave their apartment. They had nowhere to go. They found shelter in an old building's basement. Cold, wet, and scared, Elijah sat in a corner, holding his violin. Then, by accident, it slipped from his hands. The violin hit the floor. A loud crack. The wood split. Elijah screamed. "No. No." His mom ran over. "It's okay, baby, it's okay." But he cried like a piece of his heart had broken. He didn't eat that night. He didn't sleep. In the morning, the old man with the cane knocked on the door. He had come to check on them. When he saw the broken violin, he said just one thing. "We'll fix it, together." Back in the present, the final note. On stage, Elijah played the last note. It was soft, gentle, like a goodbye kiss. Then silence. The bow lowered. The violin rested at his side. For a moment, no one moved. Then, one person stood and clapped. Then another, and another. Soon, the entire room stood on their feet, clapping, some with tears in their eyes. Elijah looked confused. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. His eyes searched the crowd, but all he could think of was his mother's voice. Flashback. The promise. "Don't stop playing, no matter what," she had said once, holding his hand. "One day they'll listen. I know they will." And now, they were listening. The judges called Elijah back onto the stage. He walked slowly, still holding his violin tight. His small hands trembled, but his eyes were calm. The whole room was quiet. No one whispered. No one laughed now. One judge leaned forward. "Elijah," she said softly, "where did you learn to play like that?" Elijah looked at her. "I play for my mom. I play because music is my only friend." The room stayed silent. The man in the black suit stepped forward. His face was serious, but his eyes were kind. "My name is Mr. Harris. I'm from the National Music Conservatory," he said. "I was invited to watch this audition by chance, but now I see. It was no accident." Elijah looked confused. I don't understand." Mr. Harris smiled. "That performance wasn't just music. It was a story. A story from your soul." Flashback. The first note. The first time Elijah touched a violin. He didn't even know what it was. It was lying in a pile of old trash behind a school. The wood was chipped. Strings were missing. The bow was broken. But to Elijah, it looked like magic. He picked it up, wiped the dust, and took it home. That night, while his mother cooked leftover rice and beans, Elijah sat in the corner and touched the strings. There was no sound, just silence. But in his mind, he heard music. He didn't know how to play. He didn't know how to read notes. But he believed. He pulled one string with his finger. It made a soft, odd sound. His mom turned and smiled. That's the first note, baby. The first of many. Back in the present, a surprise offer. Mr. Harris took out a folder. We have a program for students like Elijah, those with real talent, but no money or lessons. We want to offer him a full scholarship. Gasps came from the crowd. Elijah blinked. Scholarship. The woman judge nodded. It means they'll teach you, train you, help you become something great. Elijah looked down at his shoes. They had holes in them. His shirt was too big. It used to be his uncle's. Why me? He asked. Mr. Harris knelt beside him. Because you play with heart, and the world needs that. The bully returns. Suddenly, the boy who had laughed at Elijah earlier stepped forward. His name was Kyle. He was rich, well-dressed, and always first in music class. He stared at Elijah and then at the judges. This isn't fair, he shouted. He's not even trained. He doesn't read music. I've worked for years. People started whispering. Mr. Harris stood tall. Talent isn't only about training. It's about feeling. Passion. Pain. Elijah speaks through his music. Kyle's face turned red. He's just lucky. The woman judge turned to Kyle. No, Kyle. He's honest. That's something you can't fake. Kyle stepped back, humiliated. No more words came from his mouth. Flashback. The silent apartment. A month before the audition, Elijah and his mom had no power in their home. The lights didn't work. The heater was off. They sat under blankets, sharing one candle for light. Elijah held his violin, practicing in the dark. His mom whispered, "One day, baby, your music will turn the lights on again." He smiled and played the softest tune. Back in the present, a new beginning. Mr. Harris turned to the audience. We will take Elijah to New York. He'll train with the best, and we'll provide a home for his mother too. The crowd clapped. Elijah's mom, sitting in the back with tears in her eyes, ran toward the stage. She hugged her son tightly. You did it, baby, she whispered. You did it. Elijah held her and whispered, I just played my heart. Elijah sat inside a car for the first time that wasn't old or broken. It was black, clean, and smelled like new leather. Mr. Harris sat beside him, holding his violin case carefully. You nervous? Mr. Harris asked with a smile. Elijah nodded slowly. Yes. I've never been on a plane, or left my neighborhood. Mr. Harris looked out the window and said softly, That's about to change, son. Arrival in the city. New York City was louder than anything Elijah had ever imagined. Tall buildings touched the clouds. People moved fast. Cars honked. Lights flashed. Elijah held his mom's hand tightly as they walked into the National Music Conservatory. Inside, it was silent. The floors were shiny. The walls were filled with photos of famous musicians. Elijah, a lady said kindly, We've been waiting for you. She took them to a small apartment right next to the music hall. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean, warm, and had working lights. His mom stood still in the doorway. This is for us. Elijah looked at her and smiled. I told you, Mama. One day the lights would stay on. First class. The next morning, Elijah walked into his first real music class. Other kids were already there. Some looked curious. Some looked cold. Most of them had been trained since they were very young. One girl whispered to another, That's the boy from the news, the poor one who played the violin. Elijah heard it. He felt small again, just like in the old school. But then a teacher entered. "Good morning, class," she said. "I'm Miss Carter. Today we'll listen to each of you play." Everyone took turns. They all sounded perfect. Then it was Elijah's turn. He stepped forward, opened his old violin case, and picked up his scratched instrument. Someone laughed. Miss Carter raised a hand. "No laughing in this room. We listen. We learn." Elijah closed his eyes and began to play. A new sound. The first note was soft, then stronger. The melody was not from a book. It was from his heart. He played the sounds of cold nights, candlelight, and his mother's voice. He played the sound of walking to school in broken shoes. He played the feeling of being laughed at and rising anyway. When he stopped, no one moved. Miss Carter stood frozen, then slowly began to clap. The class joined in. One boy near the back leaned forward. That was amazing. Elijah smiled. For the first time, he didn't feel like a poor boy. He felt like a musician. Trouble rises, but not everyone was happy. One of the rich boys, Jason, started getting jealous. He had always been the best in class. Now, everyone talked about Elijah. "Don't think you're better than us," Jason said after class. "I don't think that," Elijah replied quietly. "I just play." Jason smirked. "Let's see how long you last." Elijah didn't answer, but deep inside, he knew the fight wasn't over. The call. That night, Elijah got a call from Mr. Harris. "Elijah," he said, "you've been invited to perform at the city's youth concert. It's a big event." Elijah froze. "Me? Yes. You'll represent our school. Are you ready?" Elijah looked at his violin. It was old, but strong. He nodded. "I'm ready." Back home, before the big concert, Elijah returned to his old neighborhood. He walked past the broken school fence, past the corner where he first found the violin. Kids saw him and ran up. "Elijah, we saw you on TV." He smiled. "You can do it too," he told them. "You just need heart." He gave one boy a small notebook. "Write your dreams here. Every day." The boy asked, "Do dreams really come true?" Elijah smiled. "Yes. Mine started with one note. Cliffhanger ending." The night of the concert came. The stage was huge. Lights were bright. Cameras were ready. Elijah stood behind a curtain, holding his violin. He took a deep breath. Suddenly, someone whispered from the side, "You don't belong here." It was Jason. But Elijah didn't look at him. He stepped onto the stage. The announcer said, "Now, please welcome Elijah Brooks." The crowd clapped. Elijah looked at the sea of faces and saw his mom smiling in the front row. He lifted his violin. The bow touched the strings. And then, one note filled the air, and the whole hall went silent. Elijah stood on the stage. His hands were steady. His heart beat fast, but he wasn't scared. He closed his eyes and began to play. A song from the soul. The first note echoed like a soft wind. Then came another. And another. The music grew stronger. It told a story. His story. The sound of pain. Of cold nights. Of being laughed at. Of not giving up. The music spoke louder than words ever could. People in the crowd sat still, holding their breath. Some had tears in their eyes. One woman whispered to her husband, "I've never heard anything like this." Eyes on him. Backstage, teachers watched in shock. Even the strict judges stopped writing. In the front row, Elijah's mother held her hands over her heart. Beside her sat Mr. Harris, smiling proudly. A reporter whispered, "That boy is special." But Elijah didn't hear the words. He was lost in the sound, in the feeling, in the moment. The final note. As the last note rang out, there was silence. Then, one clap. Then two. Then the whole hall rose to their feet. A loud, thunderous standing ovation filled the room. People cheered. Some shouted his name. Elijah. Elijah. He opened his eyes and looked around. Everyone was clapping. Everyone was smiling. Even Jason, the boy who once bullied him, stood frozen, shocked and speechless. A new beginning. After the concert, people lined up to meet him. A famous music director came forward. "Young man," he said, "we want to give you a full scholarship." And something else. Elijah blinked. "What else?" The man smiled. "A new violin, but only if you promise never to stop playing from your heart." Elijah looked at his old violin. It was scratched, worn, but it had carried him through everything. He nodded. "I promise." Back at the old school. Weeks later, Elijah returned to his old school, the same place where they once laughed at him. But this time, the principal invited him to speak to the students. He walked into the same room where they had mocked him. And now, they all clapped for him. Elijah said, "They once laughed when I played, but I didn't stop. I believed in my music and myself." He held up his old violin. "This violin came from the trash, but it gave me a future."